Okay, welcome guys. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at JavaScript objects, and of course you can check the previous video of how to set up the files, and in previous video we also look at the arrow function. So I've commented out the code for the arrow function, and today we're looking at the objects. Objects are actually one of the most powerful features of JavaScript. So it allows you to group related information, data, and then functions all within a single entity. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be confidently using objects to manage and organize your code, making it more efficient and easier to work with. So let's dive right in and explore the magic of JavaScript. So object houses or encloses a group of data. It could also have functions in it, so you can use them easily. So let's say you want to create an object called student, right? So what we are going to do, we're going to use a const. So let me minimize this folder. So const student, curly brackets, and then we can say what's the name of the student. Let's say we want to get data such as first name, colon, then I'll use my name Victor. You add a comma to it. Last name, so Roland. We are trying to store the data that relates to this particular student, and let's say email victor@hsrw.org, and let's add things like age. Let's say age is an integer, so say age 25, and then we can add booleans also into the data. It's alive, colon, and true. And then what we can also do is that we can also nest data inside this, but first let's print out. So the last data you have, the last property you have in the object, you remove the comma from it. So let's see if we want to print out, I need to put a semicolon here. So let's print out console.log student. So on the console, we see that this student object contains information about the student Victor Roland. Okay, so we can see what we already defined, that the student object has age 25, email to be victor@hsw.org, and then the first name is Victor, is alive, true, last name is Roland, and then the prototype is the prototype of an object. So notice how we use key value pairs to store data. Okay, we use key value pairs to store data, and each key value pair is separated by a comma. So the last key value pair does not need a comma after it, like this true value does not need a comma after it. So the next question now is assessing the object properties. When do we need this? Okay, so we might want to access specific information or specific piece of information within the student object, for example. So we want to say how we want to retrieve the first name from the student object. So all we need to do is console.log. We can say student.first name, and then on the screen you could see Victor. So let me comment out the first of the whole properties we printed out in the object. So we can see Victor as printed on the screen. So this is the output Victor. Then we can also say we want to retrieve the last name property. So same thing, we can do console.log, and we can do student.lastname. So and then we get Roland on the screen. So likewise, in this object, we can also add sub-objects into this object. It's more like nesting. So object can also contain other objects. We call this sub-objects. So for instance, we can add an address to the person. So we can add a comma to this place, so we can say address. It doesn't need a space. We can say address, and remember there is no data type at the left hand side, so we say address, and then we put the curly brackets, click on enter, and let's see the city is Dusseldorf. We add a comma, and then we can say state is NRV, that's North Rhine-Westphalia. Then we can say country Germany. Okay, so now we see that we have nested sub-object inside an object, and so we can actually access the sub-object inside this object still using the same method, we can just do console.log. We can say student.address. Click on tab, we get it. We see that the address, we have city Düsseldorf, country Germany, and the state is NRV. Now what we can also do, we can also add new properties to the object after it has been created. Let's say we want to add what is his country of origin, so we can just say student.country is equal to Nigeria. And so if we print console.log, this is country here, console.log student.country, student.country, or we have on the screen, we have Nigeria on the screen as the output. So what we did here was to add a property that was not already defined. Likewise, you can also add property to this nested sub-object. So this is how to create object, and also we can update the properties and add methods. So the object is not just limited to properties alone. You can also add methods. So we can modify existing properties or even add functions to our object. For example, let's add a method that returns the full name of the student. So we can say student. Oh, okay, we are doing it automatically. You can add the function manually. You can add the function at this point here, or you can add the function down below. So let me comment this out. Ctrl K, Ctrl C. And also I can comment this out. Ctrl K, Ctrl C. So let's say we want to create a method called full name, that when we call on this full name method, or when we call on this full name, it brings or returns the first name and the last name. So the name of this function is called full name, column, and then function, curly brackets, and we use the return statement and do string interpolation with the backtick, $, curly brackets, and then we say this dot first name, okay, and $, curly brackets, this dot last name, close semicolon. So we have this function called full name that returns the first name and the last name. We'll look at the this keyword shortly. So let's call on this method that we created, or this function that we created. We can say console.log student dot, I can just scroll down and say dot full name. Oh, I need to put this because it's a method. And then we get Victor Roland as a full name. So what does this keyword mean? This. So the this keyword always refers to the current object. Okay, in this case it refers to the student object. So it will say check the parent object and do you have this property called this. So it goes a level higher and check, okay, this is the parent object called student, and inside student, of course, I have this first name. And so that is how you're able to access the first name from the parent object. That is how the this keyword works. But if the this keyword was somewhere in the parent object, then it goes a level higher into the windows, into the window or the global space. So, but we will try to keep it as simple as possible. Just remember this, that if you use this keyword, it goes a level higher to check what is above it. So for instance, if at this point in time, this is the parent object, right? If I create a property here and I say this tests this, okay? And then if I print out to the console, say console.log student.thisTests. So you see that it's goes one level higher to the window, which is, if you talk about the document object model, it goes higher. So that is to say the parent object of this object is the window. So when you use this, you are referring to a level higher. I hope this is quite explanatory. So I comment this out and I comment these out. So in summary, if you are inside a method like this place, if you are inside the method, the this keyword, it refers to the object that owns the method. So however, if this keyword is used as a standalone function or inside a parent object, then it refers to the global scope. So in future video we can also look at scope. So this can be a little confusing, but as best practice. Okay, so the next thing that we'll look at is that we can also pass an entire object to functions. For example, we can create a function that says to greet student. What do I mean by passing? Okay, you can move around the objects inside functions and you can reuse them. So let's create a function that will greet the student. So we can say function greet student, and then it takes an object. Okay, let's say we'll call it obj curly bracket enter tab console.log, and then we can say obj dot full name. So this function will take the object, and then from that object it will extract the full name, and we could also do a string interpolation to greet the student. So we can use the backtick and use a $, and we have our curly brackets round about what we are going to use. Okay, so we can add the text and say, or we can just, instead of console.log, we can say return. Remove this from here. Try the second backtick. Okay, so function greet student takes an object and then returns hello, the student name. So something like hello full name, and then we can also do console.log you are welcome. Okay, so let's see how this works. So we can call the function that we created and say greet student, open the parentheses, and inside this greet student it takes in an object. And what is the name of our object? Name of our object is student that we created above. Okay, so we are missing the parentheses here, object of full name, because full name is a method or it's a function, right? So we add the parentheses. So instead of the return statement here, we are going to use console.log. I want to log it to the screen, and let's say console.log. So yeah, so this is a function that greets student, takes in the object as a parameter, and then we do string interpolation to say hello. We use a $, and then the object dot full name, and we have hello Victor Roland, you are welcome. So let me remove the space. You can see that there's some space here, so I can remove this space. Okay, so that's about passing objects to functions and using its methods. It's all right. So next, I'm going to comment this out. We look at how to, if we want specific properties from an object, we can use destructuring to grab those properties. Okay, so how can we do this? So let's say we just want to get the first name and the address and the city of this student. So we use the destructuring. And so how do we do this? We do it by const curly brackets. So what's the first name I want to get? I want to get first name. So I can even abbreviate that as first name as FN, comma, I want to get address. And we know that address is a sub object. So address, we want to get the city where the student lives. So we need to open a curly bracket and enter city, because inside address we have a city, so address is not just a property. Okay, then we call in the object, which is student. So if you just want to print out the first name, you can just say console.log fn now, and then you get the first name, which is Victor, on the screen as the output. And if you want the address, you can just say console.log address, or rather city, because it's city that I want to get. Yeah, do set off. So destructuring helps make our code cleaner and more readable. So next, we want to see how we can loop through the object properties. And when I talked about loop in the previous video, I said there is a kind of loop that we use when we are dealing with object. And let me comment this out. By the way, the link to the GitHub where this code I'm writing now will be in the description, so you can click on it and play with the code to master object if you are a beginner. For in loop, which is a special type of loop that is used with the objects. So if you use for in, you could even see the snippet. So you can see that for in has a key, it takes in an object, and then has own property and things like this. So I just want you to have a look at how the snippet looks like, but we are going to explain it from scratch. So how to write the for in loop? We say for, and then you open your parentheses, and then const property. So want to get all the property in the object, const, like I say prop in student, curly bracket, click on tab. Then we can do string interpolation and say console.log backtick $. So we want to take in the property, which we use curly brackets. So we say prop colon and the $, curly bracket of student, and then prop. Okay, it's already printed on the console anyway. So we see that it loops through the student object and then print out the property pair, first name Victor, last name Roland, email is this, age is this, the boolean, and even the address. Of course, this is a bit messy, but yeah, we just want to have a glimpse of what is contained in the object. Then usually the for in loop comes with the has own property method. So it's stated like this: if student dot has own property, open parentheses, and put prop. So this has own property ensures that we only access properties directly belonging to the objects, not those inherited from other prototypes. So finally, we look at the JSON files. Comment this out. I don't need this. All right, so let's look at JSON. So we know that objects are used to interact with APIs, and so an API is application programming interface. It's a way computers talk with each other. They ask for data and then they send data between themselves without human intervention. So to do this, we have to have a way to send back and forth data. So that's why I have the JSON data, which stands for JavaScript objects notation. And the JSON, they look like the objects that we have seen above. That's how the JSON, but they are not the same. So we can remove the function name, full name from our method, so we can convert the properties that we have into JSON file. However, the stringify method that is used with JSON or JSON ignores the method. So you could either remove the function or you could leave it that way. Either way, it doesn't. So okay, let's just say we want to remove the function. If we want to remove the function here, you want to remove the function called full name from the object, just because you cannot just go directly and say, oh, I want to erase it and just use Ctrl X or whatever, because it might break the other codes that we have written. So you can just say here delete students dot full name. And so if we try to print full name again to the output, so .log students dot full name, what do we get? It said undefined. Said undefined because we have already removed it. Okay, so now we want to convert the object student into the JSON file. So it's just as simple as this. You can just say console.log JSON.stringify, and then you pass in the student object. And so we have this. So let me zoom it out. So you can see now that this is the JSON file that we received. Victor, last name, Roland, almost similar, right? But the difference is that you have the properties in double quotes, while that of objects has it in single quotes. So we can also pass in, we can also convert the JSON data back into the JavaScript object For instance, you've received the JSON data, and you want to change it into an JavaScript object. Okay, so for us to do that, comment this out. We can say, okay, I can just call this const received info is equal to JSON.stringify students. Remove this so that we can then parse. When I say parse, I mean this. Okay, so we can then parse the JSON file back into an object. So let's log it out. Console.log, just call it JSON.parse. That's the method, and then we pass in the received info, and so we have it back as an object. Single quotes, which is the difference between, see that Victor has single quotes, Roland has single quotes, the email has single quotes, and this is the difference between the JSON file and the objects. Okay, so here we deleted the student of full name, right? So this, even if we did not delete the full name function, JSON.stringify ignores function when converting objects to JSON. So I can uncomment this and we'll still get the same thing without the function called full name in the output. So in conclusion, you use object a lot in JavaScript, so practice creating, modifying, and using them. Once you've practiced, come back for the next lesson where we'll dive deeper into JavaScript concept. And please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and appreciate my content, appreciate my videos, as I try as much as possible to pass on to you the information that I've learned over the years. Thank you for watching.